Shalom, shalom. All praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahushai, Ba'asham, Rakah, Kwadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of the great millstone, and salutations to all the sincere camp. And once again, this is your brother Bawan, through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahushai, and with the major news that's going on right now here in West Africa, aside from everything that's happening even here in Nigeria as well, is this Niger coup, okay? The country that is at the north of my own country, which is Nigeria, which is Niger, it's still the same name, but except for a few letters, except for a few letters of difference. So there's a coup going on right now in Niger. And basically, the reason why I haven't done a video on it is because the details, right? For example, the reasons, what's actually going on is not really being covered by the media because how the media of East or Edom works. They're just trying to hide information and not really going into what's really happening in these countries, man. The reason why there's a coup going on right there in Niger is because of, well, just like the biblical prophecy, uproars of the people, sedition among men, wars and rumors of wars, but mainly because, the nations are mad, okay? The nations are tired of Esau Edom's rulership. They are tired of Esau Edom's wickedness. And what this Niger group is doing is that it's exposing the wickedness of Esau Edom. It's exposing, how they have taken control of the world, how they have oppressed the people, right? So let me get that. So we'll start from this precept and then we'll continue going on down to all the other precepts. That should be the book of Habakkuk verse 1, I believe. Let me get that. So I cannot this one. Yes, like I forgot that was I was thinking of the wrong precept. What I was supposed to bring up was that should be in the book of Zechariah or Zephaniah. You oppress a man and his house, a man and heritage. All right, Micah 2 verse 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. And this is exactly what Esau Edom have done all over the earth. And the people of this world, are getting tired of it, right? Jake is getting tired of it, which of course, while they're in Niger, you have a lot of Jakes and you have a lot of Hamites as well. It's Israelites and mixed multitude, okay? It's not like, here in Nigeria or Ghana where like 99.999% Jake and the rest are heathen. Over there in Niger, you could have over there in Nigeria, you have a significantly higher number of heathen Hamites, right? Actual Ishmaelites, the ones that didn't get, lightened up by Esau Edom. Because you have a lot of Ishmaelites over here in Africa as well. And of course, yeah, he had, and of course, the Hamites as well. But the point being that the oppression of Esau Edom, right, is being exposed to the forefront of the world because now the major talk that's going on, especially here in Africa, JK in Africa is waking up to the oppression of Esau Edom. So the major thing you're hearing, especially here in Africa, is how the reason why this coup even began was because Jake in Niger were tired of the French government's, meddling in their country. First the information came out that the French government was getting like billions of dollars from their former colonies here in West Africa. That's your Niger, that's Cote d'Ivoire, and all the other West African countries that were colonized by the French. So they got tired of sending that money and they refused to send it. And what you're also hearing now is that Niger is rich in uranium. You guessed it, this is going into Esau Edom and their greed, right? Trying to steal the resources the from the country, oppress the people and steal their resources. That is why we got to have this precept. But anyway, continuing on, what happened in Nigeria was Bible prophecy actually. Going into Matthew 24, you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, but the main precept is actually in the book of Second Ezra, the 15th chapter, and it's something that has been going on all over the earth. When Edomites start their coup. When Edomites, protest or coup in other parts of the world, it's not really broadcasted, right? When you see a protest going on in different European countries and they're still going on to this day, it's not as heavily broadcasted as the one that's going on here in Africa. And even the one that's going on here in Africa isn't really covered by the media because all these by biblical prophecies, all these prophetic events, what you will notice, what you will find out is that the media isn't really covering all these prophetic events. The only people that are really covering these prophetic events and really going into it, bumper by bumper, giving you the blow by blow, the play by play, are the men of the Lord. That's why brothers are going into everything that happens on the earth. Not a single thing goes by without brothers going into it, right? Especially the major prophetic events, and this is an example of it because it's one of the signs that our Lord Yahweh Shai, the Most High Yahweh, warned, gave us the warning through the prophets, right? Multiple prophets were going into this exact thing. So this is the book of Second Ezra 15, verse 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And the sedition, of course, being rebellion against the government. So I have an article right here that we're going to read. Hold on. Let me go back to DuckDuckGo and get the article. Oh, it's even from Reuters. So this is the article. Okay, this isn't it. Just okay, this isn't it. That should be Chrome. There it is. West African heads of state convene in Nigeria to discuss Niger's coup. Right. So what is happening right now is that Esau Edom is pulling these nations together and forcing them to go to war against Niger because what you are hearing about here in Nigeria, for example, is that, pretty soon the Nigerian army will be deployed in Niger to try and quell the coup. Because, and you read, of course, in this article, right now the Niger president, okay, is under house arrest, right? So Esau is trying to get back control of Niger before anything happens. Okay, and you have that president over there in the need, in Niger is a puppet leader. But continue on, and really all these West African leaders are puppet leaders. West African heads of state discussed their response to last month's military takeover in Niger as closed door talks in Nigeria on Thursday after the junta defied their earlier threat to use force to restore democracy. So the junta is basically the force that's taking over Niger right now. And what I heard was that even the armed forces, right, the army of Niger was supporting them. The meeting is taking place hours after Niger coup leaders named a new government, forcing their agenda before the summit. So what you're seeing is that the people, guys, like I said, sedition among men. This isn't really the people trying to take power into their own hands, but this is one man rising up against another with swords in their hand. Second Ezra, the 15th chapter. Okay, continuing on. Since July 2026, since July 26, power grab. The junta has rebuffed diplomatic overtures and ignored an August 6 deadline from ECOWAS to reinstate ousted President Mohamed Bazoum. And the junta, I believe they were being supported by the Wagner group, right? So at the end of the day, Africa is being used just like the Congo, just like what happened in the Congo. Or when it was the Congo or the Congo. Niger as well, they are being used as tools, right, as a proxy war between Babylon and Russia, right? And this is how, and right now you are seeing firsthand how all the nations will be gathered together to fight against the Most High, Yahweh Shem Yahushua in the valley of Yahushua, in the valley of Jehoshaphat. Because now you are seeing how Esau Edom's control, stretches over the whole earth where he can have a war, or have or set up a coup. in order to battle against enemies in another part of the world, right? Because you could also make the argument that this coup is actually, you know, this coup is being supported by Russia, of course, the Wagner group, but the rest of the European nations and that's Esau and his allies, right? NATO basically are against it, but it's being pushed by the Russians mainly. Okay, and now you're seeing this firsthand, the way that the nations will be gathered together in the valley of the Hawashaphat. Okay, we're continuing on. Yeah, basically that's what I really wanted to read about that. The main point being is that the West African nations, right? Let's get that. And it's written as it is written, the West African nations, which are all basically puppet leaders, okay, the West African presidents and the leaders of these different West African nations, they are all basically puppet leaders because well, it doesn't need any explanation. We know how Istoidon's tactics, economic hitmen, actual hitmen, CIA agents sent to destabilize various nations all over the earth in order to make it easier for them to steal the resources. Different industries being run by the elites of Istoidon, big pharma, big oil, really that destabilize various countries, especially countries where our people are in. That's the Israelite nation, that's the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, in order to push their wicked agenda. And that's exactly the same thing that's happening in Niger right now because the coup is actually being backed by a major power, which is probably most likely, in the Wagner group, right? In order to push right now to destabilize NATO and the EU by taking away, the resources that France gets from the Niger from them. And of course, these devils are scrambling. I saw these devils are scrambling, and I wanted to go into something else, but the information hasn't yet been verified. So I can't really talk about it too much. But basically, and take this with a grain of salt. But what I heard was that as you should already know, the Niger is rich in uranium, right? Supplying almost 15% of the power that is in France. So what is happening right now is that Babylon the Great is trying to get a cut of that uranium. They have already, even in fact, Babylon has already set up a military base in Niger. They were trying to set it up in a military base in Niger because majority of the uranium that Babylon gets right now is actually from Russia, which is why you've been seeing power outages in Babylon the Great recently. Because because a good point, because Russia supplies not just Europe but even Babylon with the power, energy, and even natural gases as well. So the US is trying to separate itself from from Russia and get its power, nuclear plants and such directly from Niger. But anyway, that's beside the point. What is going on right now? Major prophetic events are unfolding. Okay, so with that, all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Barasham Yawashai, Barasham Rakak, Wadash, Wa Abad Babal, and through the spirit and power of Yahweh, and through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Most High Yahweh, Barasham Yawashai. I hope you are edified. Shalom.